I do.
Please sit down and roll your name. Please state and spell your first and last name.
Emanuela Arnold Carr, first name spelled Emmanuella, last name Arnaud-Carr.
And Ms. Carr, how are you employed?
With the Department of Family and Children's Services?
And how long have you been with the Department of Family and Children's Services?
About 7 years now.
And what position do you hold?
Currently, I am a consultant. I work with the state office, supervisor mentor.
And in 2015, what position did you hold?
I was the after-hours supervisor and special investigator.
And as a special investigator, what were your duties in 2015?
So I managed a unit, and then as a special investigator, I was going out on cases that were pertaining to serious injuries, child deaths, or neglect or abuse from foster parents, daycares, things of that nature.
And what is, do you know the term substantiated?
Yes.
And what does that mean?
That means there was enough evidence to prove that it happened.
And unsubstantiated, what does that mean?
That means there wasn't enough evidence to prove that it likely happened the way they said it happened.
And as part of your job duties, are you to make the determination about whether a case is substantiated or unsubstantiated?
Yes.
In 2015?
Yes. Back then I was making the determination of whether cases were subbed or unsubbed.
And on November the 17th of 2015, did you become involved in a case involving Laila Daniel and Millie Place?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to November the 17th, were you involved in any way with Millie Place or Laila Daniel?
No, I wasn't involved prior.
And how did you become involved on November the 17th of 2015?
I received information, call stating that the foster child was in the hospital or was on her way to the hospital due to a choking incident while in the care of the Rosenbaums.
And upon receiving that call, what did you do?
I immediately informed my supervisor and additional supervisor, and an additional supervisor, which was the county director at the time, Ebony, and Ms. Taylor, and I informed her that I would be the one going out in the case, and she confirmed yes, I would be.
And did you go out on the case?
I did.
And where did you go?
To Piedmont Henry Hospital.
And when you got to Piedmont Henry Hospital, what did you do?
I met with the case manager, Samantha White, and she explained to me that she received a call saying the child was choking at home on chicken.
After receiving that information, what are the next steps that you take?
I talked to her a little bit about the last time she saw the child. I asked a few questions as to what she needed to do next. She was really upset and not looking good, so I suggested that she go home. At that time, the ambulance had arrived to the hospital, and the child was pronounced deceased, and they had taken her into a room and wouldn't let anyone else in at that time.
And let me ask you, prior to your, I want to make sure I get this straight, prior to your arrival, had the child, and are we speaking about Laila Daniel?
Yes.
Had Laila Daniel arrived at the hospital?
Not at that exact time, no. She was on her way.
So you got there before she got there?
Yes.
And you indicated that you were informed that she was deceased?
Yes.
Did you inform anyone of the fact that she had passed away?
No.
After giving that information, you said that she was in the room. Did you at any point go to the room where Laila Daniel was being held?
Yes, I went to the room, but only after they allowed the coroner and several other people into the room at that time. I wasn't allowed prior to that.
When you went in the room with Laila Daniel, did you do anything while you were in there?
When I got in the room, I did start taking some pictures. They were undressing her or taking off what she had left on, and they were looking at just kind of looking her over.
What did you observe anything while you were in there taking photographs?
I observed marks and bruises just all over her front and back when they did move her. They were talking, the doctors and the other staff in the room were talking about the fact that she had used the bathroom, which is, something that happens. She used the bathroom on herself that day. And so I was just taking notes.
After being in the room and doing that observation, what were your next steps as part of your investigation?
So I waited with the coroner to be able to go and speak to the family in the room. We had the other child that was in the hospital as well. The other child was taken to do an examination as well, so I followed them to that examination.
Okay. And when the other child, you're speaking about Millie Place?
Yes.
And did Millie did you ask her any questions, or did she make any statements to you?
Along the way to the room, she had said that her sister was choking on chicken. She said she missed her and wanted her. When we got to the room, the medical examiner asked her a few questions about her own marks and bruises, and she would say she was riding her bike or she fell at gymnastics.
And when she stated that her sister was choking on chicken, did she tell you if she saw that or someone had told her that?
She didn't tell me. She was talking to the doctor in the room, and she just said that she heard that her sister was choking on chicken.
Did she tell you who she heard that from? Or did she say who she heard that from?
She said her second mommy.
And did she tell you who her second mommy was?
Yes,
And who was that?
Miss Rosenbaum.
Prior to that, had you had any interaction with Jennifer Rosenbaum?
We've seen each other in court on several other defects cases, but not formally met.
When you say seen her in court with other defects cases, what was that occasion about?
To my understanding, she was working, interning in the legal field, and so we would see each other in court, not on the same cases or anything, but she would be present during those hearings.
And during those hearings, what would you be testifying or just present? What would you be doing at those hearings?
So because I was an after-hours supervisor, if we did any removals after hours, the next morning we would have a court hearing, and so again, I would see her in the courtroom or in the court building. So.
And did y'all ever have a case together where y'all worked together during that course of time?
Not that I know of.
And were you present in the room with Millie during her examination?
Yes.
And what were your observations during that examination?
She did have several marks and bruises. She had some rashing, some other little scratches that she attributed to sometimes riding a bike.
Did Millie at all tell you where she was when she indicated that her sister was choking?
No, initially she couldn't tell us anything. The only information she said was that she was upstairs, or they had just finished eating and she went upstairs.
Was she able to tell you what the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum, was doing if she observed her doing anything while she was still in the home?
No.
And if I can show you, did she not tell you or you don't recall?
No, I don't recall.
In looking at your report, would that help you?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall what she would say to you if anything?
Yes.
And what was that?
She stated that she observed Rosenbaum. She had just fed them, and she had went upstairs, and they were told to get ready to go.
And did she observe Ms. Rosenbaum doing anything when she came downstairs?
Patting her on the back.
Did you remain in the room during Millie's examination?
I did.
After her examination, did you have any more, did you do anything else as part of your investigation?
Yes, based on the bruises and the child's report, I made a call to my direct supervisor, which is Ebony Taylor, and let her know the concerns thus far of the case. And she explained that the child would have to be removed or kept in defects custody at that time.
And after getting that information, what are the next steps that you take?
I went with the coroner to the room where the family was, where the Rosenbaums were.
Do you recall who was present at that time?
There was a lot of family members that I can't remember everyone that was in the room, but I do recall Mr. Rosenbaum and Ms. Rosenbaum and her husband.
And did you speak with them and ask them any questions?
So the coroner led with the questions, and if I had any additional, I would ask after him. So yeah.
And what information did you receive from the Rosenbaums? Let me ask you, what were you asking them questions about?
Their kind of routine for that day, what happened.
And did you get that information?
Yes.
And what were you told as far as the routine for the day?
So Mr. Rosenbaum and Ms. Rosenbaum, Ms. Rosenbaum went to school in the evening, while Mr. Rosenbaum watched the children during the day, if memory serves me correct. And I was also told that at the time, Ms. Rosenbaum was the caretaker for the children because Mr. Rosenbaum went to work. They had been eating at the table. They were getting ready to go somewhere, or we're going to go somewhere after they ate. They had the chicken from the jail the day before. That was what the children were eating with some vegetables. She had asked the kids to go upstairs to get ready to go, while she, in turn, was getting their sneakers or their clothing. And
Stop you right there. You said they had somewhere to go. Did she inform you where they were going?
I don't recall.
Would you put that in your report?
I might have put it in my report.
Looking at that, would that help? Refresh?
Sure. Okay.
Do you recall now where they were headed to?
Yes.
And where were they going?
She had a board meeting that night with the Board of Commissioners.
Do you recall around what time she said these activities began?
I didn't get exact times that day, just a rundown of what they had going on.
I think you stopped. I stopped you. She was getting something while
Right.
when the girls were upstairs.
Right. She was getting their shoes and socks, it seemed. And she explained that she had her back turned, and the now deceased child was in her chair, high chair it seemed, and was at the table and had been known to rock a bit. So when she heard the rocking, she just assumed that the child was rocking, because she normally does that in her high seat. And when she turned around, she observed the child to be white in color, and observed the child to be choking.
And did she tell you what happened once she made those observations of Laila?
Say that again, I'm
Did
sorry.
she tell you what she did when she saw the child being pale in color and was shaking? Did she tell you?
Yes, she said she pulled open the high chair and she began to do what, like patting on the back and the Heimlich maneuver. She explained that she hadn't been really trained in it, but had been doing what she thought, she should be doing.
Did she tell you, besides patting her on the back, if she did anything else?
Yeah, she said after that, those attempts were unsuccessful. She had taken her out of the chair at one point. She had brought her over by the sink. She had lodged her finger down the child's throat to try to clear the airway. She had continued to pat her heavily on the back. She had taken a butter knife and putting it down the child's throat to clear the airway. At one point, she attempts to put her down. She says the child was like faintly breathing, so she puts her down or attempts to put her down on the floor, but dropped her a little bit. And then when she got down onto the floor, that's when she started to kind of hold her to start doing some more compressions and trying to get a hold of the police to do the CPR.
So let me ask you, when she said it was unsuccessful, did she ever tell you that she saw anything come out of Laila's mouth?
No.
And you said she was kind of holding her down. Did she describe to you how she was holding her down?
Yeah, it was almost like she was pinning her legs down, like on top of her, to start to do compressions again. That's how.
Did she tell you where she was doing compressions?
Yes, on her chest.
Did she tell you anything else about what measures she took to try to dislodge this item from Laila's throat?
No, that was the main thing. She did say she called the police and they were informing her what to do or instructing her by phone.
When you're having this conversation with defendant Jennifer Rosenbaum, what was her demeanor?
Initially, she seemed pretty calm. She kept talking about, saying that she couldn't cry. She was in shock. She kept saying, I don't know, my eyes are dry. I don't know why I can't cry. But she was shaking. She was in shock, during the conversation.
Do you recall what Mr. Rosenbaum's demeanor was?
He was crying. He was distraught.
At some point, did someone tell the family that Laila was deceased?
The coroner did.
Do you recall if Ms. Rosenbaum made any statements once the coroner announced that Laila was deceased?
I don't recall her making a statement.
Would you have put that in your report?
Yes.
Would it help by looking at
Yes. Okay.
Does that help you refresh your recollection?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you recall her saying?
So at the time, she explained that she hadn't been aware of the marks and bruises and things the child had, or she explained that they had come from the gymnastics. Even then, she wasn't really crying or anything. She just was explaining that, how could this have happened, or she didn't understand what was going on.
During that time, had you told her anything about bruises on Layla?
No, she explained that the case manager had told her.
So prior to yourself and the coroner coming inside, to your knowledge, was she already aware about bruises on Layla?
Not to my knowledge, but after speaking to her during that session, she did explain that the case manager had questions about the bruising because she was questioned about it.
During that time, did you speak with Mr. Rosenbaum?
Yes.
And what did Mr. Rosenbaum tell you about this incident?
He explained that day in particular, he was going to work, and normally they take shifts like I explained before. And he explained that the child was fine when he was there. She had been sleeping, I think, earlier that day. He explained, he was trying to explain to me at some point, I think Ms. Rosenbaum had kind of, interjected a few times. But to his recollection, last time he saw her, she was awake, she was fine. She had actually went to sleep while he was there, and there was no concern prior to him leaving.
Was there a discussion in regards to where the children would go when they were, as far as daycare was concerned?
There was, but I don't remember the full conversation. Sorry. Yes. Here you go.
And what was that conversation?
Yes, so I asked if they went, because I was trying to figure out if they had been anywhere else besides at the home of the Rosenbaums. And when daycare was brought up, I was told that they didn't qualify for daycare based on how much they made, but they had, asked for services at one point.
Administrator Ms. Member states 214 already entered into evidence. Do you know what that is?
Yes, it's an application for child care.
And who was that in regards to?
Ms. Rosenbaum,
Okay. And what happened with that application?
you're asking me to, what does it
Yeah,
say?
what the letter said.
Okay, it says that their
You
application
don't
was,
have to read it out
oh,
loud, just
okay.
read it.
It was denied.
Okay. And show you states exhibit 214 on the screen. What's that denial date? Or the letter indicating that they were denied services?
August 7th, 2015.
After speaking with Mr. Rosenbaum and the Rosenbaums, what do you do next as part of your investigation?
I explained that the other child would have to be removed per defects protocol because we didn't have clear evidence to identify the child, to substantiate or unsubstantiate at that time, but also to clearly state that the child would be safe, the living child would be safe in their care. And so I explained that child would be removed. I had asked for whatever car seat or things they had at that time. And then, of course, I explained that I'll be following up with them to get additional information.
After that, did you have any more involvement with the defendants?
No.
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Ross.
Good morning, Ms. Carter.
Good morning.
My name is Corinne Muller. I just have a number of questions for you.
Sure.
If you don't understand my question, please let me know. If you don't hear me, please let me know.
Okay.
You were not involved with the children prior to Laila dying, correct?
Correct.
And your role at the hospital was to talk to people.
My role with defects was to assess the situation once the case came in, yes.
So, as part of your role, did you talk to people?
I did.
Okay. And you spoke to nurses, correct?
I spoke to the hospital staff, the EMT, who was in the room, yeah.
And you spoke to Millie, didn't you?
The living child, yes.
Living child. And she was not shy, and she was very articulate, wasn't she, for her age?
She was shy at some points, depending on who was in the room.
Do you recall saying that she was not shy?
I don't recall.
She told you she was upstairs when Layla was choking, correct?
Correct.
And when she came downstairs, Mama was counting, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Mama was counting. And what did you understand that to mean?
Possibly doing the Heimlich maneuver or doing compressions.
And you also talked to Millie about her bruises.
Mm-hmm.
And she accounted for the bruise that goes down her buttocks. She got that from playing outside, she said.
She did.
And she said that her left elbow was hurt when she fell off the bars and her elbow hit her knee, correct?
I don't recall.
She told you she got the other bruises from gymnastics, correct?
Correct.
And she was questioned again, and she said she didn't know how she got the bruises, correct?
She was questioned at the same time with the medical examiner, yeah.
And she didn't know how, that time she didn't know how she got the bruises.
Right, right.
One time she had an account, and then
Next, she didn't, yeah.
then she didn't, correct?
Mhm.
And you're aware of forensic interviewing in your business, right?
Correct.
You're aware that you're supposed to repeat questions to children over and over, correct?
Can you ask that question again?
You are aware that people are not supposed to repeat questions to children over and over.
In a forensic interview, yes, but that wasn't a forensic interview.
I understand.
Okay.
But normally, you're not supposed to ask the questions, you're supposed to let the forensic interviewer do the interviewing, correct?
The medical examiner can ask questions, yes.
But when a forensic interview is involved, the forensic interviewer likes for the child not to have been questioned before the forensic interviewer gets to her, correct?
Correct.
You went over with Millie good touch and bad touch, right?
Correct.
And you asked her if she was touched inappropriately by the Rosenbaums, correct?
Correct.
And she said that Anthony,
I would object to this on the question, Judge.
That's
It's not
doors
relevant
been-
to this case.
the door's been opened, Your Honor, and it's important to distinguish from who's who.
It was, yeah, I'm not certain, she says the door has been opened, I don't know who opened the door. I know Ms. Mall asked questions about it earlier on.
But Ms. Johnson, the nurse,
Let's have the jury step back. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 10:30. We're going to take our break, or at least you're going to have your break, and we'll see you soon. About 15 minutes.